Having modeled the octopus, the goldfish is pretty much a repetition of the same design. I will point out some of the design tips for how to approach modeling this to make this a shorter video. And so I won't start completely from scratch, since at this point you should be able to recreate some of these steps. As like I did in the octopus version, first step obviously is to bring in the quad ball. And we scaled it down with the dimension view level of 6 to the dimension of 45 millimeters, then applied scale and rotation. I brought in the reference image, moved it to the side, and set up also the unit system 2 millimeters. Always the same stuff. Because the magnet socket is at the front, so here I put in the socket for it, and here are all the geometry elements. Here, this one I want to delete because that's a duplicate. And then all the other elements were built. So how we make the socket, pretty much you saw exactly in the octopus video, 12.5 and 2 millimeters. And then here are the eyes. So in my sketch here, you can see this should be 15.5 and 5 millimeter. So how do we actually create something so that this is kind of like the same? Let me show you how we can do this. It's actually pretty simple. So in top view first, we make a plane, and in edit mode, we scale the plane down. So, okay. Then in wireframe mode, right click, subdivide, and J and J. And there I have 45-degree lines. So all these points I select and retire. Pretty cool, huh? So what do I do now? The eye dimensioning. With this, basically, I figured out the position. Good. Shift A, circle. Whoops, undo. Shift A, circle. 64 segments. Diameter, I don't really know yet. Maybe 20. And the rotation, 90. Very good. And then I move this one to here. Okay. So where the eye gets out and goes back, that's a distance of, let's say, 16 millimeter. And then roughly 5 millimeter, it gets higher. Let's go into edit mode, and then you want to turn on edge. And here we go to active element. Then we select this point, and then E and X -5, so 5 millimeters. This should be 16 divided by 2 is 8. So E and Y in my case, because I'm in local mode, otherwise it's C, 8. And here E and Y -8. Okay, so now actually I need to scale this ring down so that the edge of the ring touch this. How do I do this? A, click, click, click with shift, click shift, deactivate it, and shift and click it to activate it. And you see now how the widget snapped to there. That's because we have active element turned on. S, and we scale this one down. Suck. And there we are. Now, the the object center point is off with the whole ring selected, but not the geometry. We created Shift S cursor to select it, and then in object mode, right click origin to 3D cursor. So we recentered it. So pretty cool. Now all this into the center point. Then actually I go local. Yeah, yeah, I will go with local, but no, I will actually apply this silly rotation I have there. So Z is up. Z, I would like to go minus 45 and then move this one out. And there you see there my line. Okay, pretty cool. Sweet. Okay, so how do I position now the eye? I select the 3D or the quad ball. In my case, because I have all these Boolean commands, you might only have them not yet. So Shift D and Escape. And copy, I delete all those. Minus 45. And actually scale this down a little bit. And now I need to figure out, so where is the center point here? Shift S cursor to select it. And here is my ball. Shift S selection to cursor. Okay, and now I can scale this object up till you see it lines up. There, perfect. In the video, actually I did the video and then something went wrong with the mic. We identified that actually the eyes are not centered. They're a little bit higher, and from the front, this is not too far out enough. So how do we do this? But ideally, I want to keep the dimension of these eye sockets perfectly as they are. So select this and turn on the magnet so we can see this. There you can see that this is actually in the image really wide. This is too tight. So this is now where 3D cursor Shift S cursor to 3D world comes in and working locally. So we want to rotate this a little bit more like this. Okay, now we can't just simply move this up because it changes the way how the eye sits on the sphere. We have to rotate it along the y-axis. So that's why we're in local mode. So R and Y, you see how very even it slides on it. The bottom part should be a little bit above the midpoint. So RY in local mode. There. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. Select this one. Can we do a mirror? Let's see. Along the y-axis, select this one. Yeah, it does. The mirror command ignores that this object has actually kind of like this local orientation, just so you know. Because the mirror command just basically takes the scene left, right, up, down, forward, backwards. Boom. And maybe here, this now, we bring over a little bit more. There. That's really nice fisheye look. Well, actually, the video had bad audio. This is actually a nicer process than I showed initially. So this one I will call I better. Put this into the construction. Let's try maybe the construction on. There's my other eye left. It's not bad. It's just not as precise sitting on the surface. Cool. And here, this one I will call I dimension. And do I have this in alignment? Yeah, I have I dimension there. So these two I will delete. And then this one here, that is I alignment. Technically speaking, the alignment is incorrect because, as we figured out, it's not 45-degree, but I keep those. So these guidelines, think about the geometry I created, are kind of like guidelines to design proportionally. Because for those who will have me next semester in 3D modeling one more time, the other students had me last semester, we will look into Fusion, which is very much sketch-based driven. So we do technical drawings, and then from the drawings only we auto-generate geometry. And we manipulate the geometry by adjusting the sketches only, which has its advantage of working very precise, but also the downside of we need to predict how adjustments to the sketch will adjust the geometry. In here, we just direct model the geometry, which is so much nicer for this type of work. Which is then why we can, however, to work precise, we just create helper geometry like this stuff. Maybe a tick back, since I moved the other one, a tick back too. Okie dokie. So that was actually everything about the eyes. The socket, no, it's pretty easy. So how do we do those? That was actually an interesting way how I developed this. So we have a height of 7, at least. A little bit longer we have to build because it's also 10, then 9 and 11. So let's hide this one. So here is an object that is height-wise 10. So I made this a little bit longer. And then here I have a ring that is 9 and a ring that is 11 millimeters. And this is a very basic polygon ring, as you can see. The way how I approached this was the following. Yeah, we'll take this sphere, Shift D, set this all to 0 and 0. Move this up. So I have 9 millimeters as the one radius. So I set this all to 9. Control A. Oh, good. So it was easy, no? And then I need to have a height of 7. So Shift S, cursor to where this piece is. Or hold on, actually we will try to work a little bit cleaner. So I bring it to here, Shift S, selection to the grid. So it snaps to the grid, Shift S, cursor to the selection. There we are. We know that this is not enough resolution. So we will apply this and then add a sub D. And now I can go ahead and here, this lower one, I will S and Z and 0 flatten. Very good. Then Control R, click, slide up. Make sure point select is turned on, and then I move it down and snap. See, then this way it's all one piece and flattened. And this ring I have here, I crease, Alt click this X and dissolve this edge. We can simplify this a little bit. Okay, cool. So there's now my kind of usable half dome with a cylinder around it. Then I create a circle, 64, 100 by radius should be 4.5. Oh, it's millimeters. And I can Shift E and escape, move this one down, and it should be 11. Okay. And we have a height of kind of like 10 something. So this is pretty good. I can select this one and move this up and snap to the top, and then G and Z and move this down exactly -10 millimeters. So The reason why I did this is the following. You see how big those are, no? So I can go to here, edit mode, select all the bottom stuff, make this nice and tall, and then scale this and make sure that this starts to line up. There. Okay, cool. So now from 9 millimeters to through 11, and then it continues. One thing I want to make sure here when I select this and this, or this and this and F, so this line is under it. This is good. The reason why I checked this was I want to make sure that this is not by accident becoming concave. Should be more convex. You see, like goes from dome into the cone. Okay, then this we can call thin master. Yeah, and I will move this one to here so you don't see the rest. Then Alt-D. Basically, we can start moving everything around. This is on top, a little bit back. This is on the bottom, a little bit smaller, even more at an angle. So this should be 7 millimeters. How can we try to match this? Super easy. We move this in there, and then GZ. I'm in local. You see that? So the Z-axis is at an angle. I press 7. Whoop, there. No big measurements or whatever shenanigans. Then Alt-D, bring one to there and rotate it. Bring this back there. GZ and 10. Okay, so there's a little bit of an overlap. Maybe we'll bring this a tick to there. How do I get the one on the bottom? This is now where we go to 3D cursor, Shift S, cursor to origin, global, Alt D, R, X 180. So view, Alt D, R, X 180. Do not do a mirror because these two have to be booleaned into there. This one here also has a little bit of a radius, so we can select this one, Alt D, and then R, rotate it. Yep, so it's a little bit under it. Very good. And then a little bit like this. A little bit more in. And because I do not intersect here, we can do actually a mirror command. Yeah, so there you see there's still a distance. Very good. And then it's pretty much trying to line up everything so it looks nice and good. I delete all those objects here. And yeah, since I have them already existing, and then there is my eye. I made a better eye. Oh, I better. Very good. Some interesting artifacts going on there. This is shade smooth. So these artifacts are probably because of the low resolution. So we will fix this in a moment. Zoom, 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 zoom. There we are. In Fusion, for example, here we will create a nice blend. You can see this here actually. There, this is nice and round. And then there is a nice fillet too. Okay. And these bevels, actually, I show you, we can even render them in Blender with cycles. So we can pre-visualize how such a fillet would look like, so we don't get these sharp edges. Fillets are very time consuming, so ideally it's not something we want to spend a lot of time while designing. That's a feature for the end. In my version here, I feel no, these are actually really interesting pins there. Yeah, no, I keep this. Okay, we talked about, or I mentioned there was some stuff here. So when I set this to 3, and this looks cleaner. The rest of all your objects, like the eye, make sure in my one recording, actually, this crashed because I had this set to 6. Something like 2 is more than sufficient. Yeah, I only. Oh, this can go. Okay, a quick summary in how to use mesh modeling and creating dimensional mesh sketches as overlays to then rebuild something and then use global and local orientation, etc., to precisely position everything.